a session that we did at the October 30th, 2014 Ledgeview Partners Customer Conference. And this session was all about the steps involved with having a successful CRM implementation. It started out being 10 steps, and we actually added one. So for the conference that day only, we actually came up with 11 steps to consider when implementing CRM. So with that being said, let's get started. We are going to flip through some slides here, but I'm also going to jump and show you some things right in the application. So we will be flipping back and forth here a little bit. So as we go through the slides, just want to introduce myself. My name is Steve Rybrook. I'm a CRM product consultant here at Ledgeview Partners. My main focus is on a finished product that we sell and support with our clients for the oil and gas and lubricant marketers across the country. So when we sell our finished product to those customers, I get assigned the project and I go out and kick it off, get the product up and running, and then go back and train all the customers so they can use the product. I also help enhance the product, so we're constantly upgrading that product. So what we really did is we took vanilla CRM, put a lot of enhancements on it, and came up with a finished product to save our customers a lot of time and money. So just wanted to find out, heading into this conversation or this video, think about where you fit in as far as what you're doing for CRM right now. So just so you know, like where you fit in things, either maybe you don't have CRM, so you're thinking about it. Maybe you're right in the middle of your first CRM project. You have CRM, but you're struggling a little bit, or you're using CRM, it's working fine, and you want to make sure you don't run into any pitfalls. So when you do implement CRM, what kind of experience will you get? And we definitely don't want all these sad faces when we're done, right? It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources, and we just want to make sure it's a success. So to make it a success, hint number one, determine which CRM is the best fit for you. One of the things that I find lately with the CRM that I'm installing for clients is we're like the second or third attempt that a customer has given CRM. So people are trying it and not being successful. And that's how we learn, right? Sometimes we learn from our mistakes. So hopefully this will help, and with one attempt you can get CRM up and running and working successfully. So the assumption going into this presentation is that you've already decided, that CRM is a product you want. So that's your first big strategic decision. We think CRM is going to help our company. Okay, great. So now what? Which one do you buy? Who do you partner with? All these questions come up. So the next big strategic decision I think you need to make is this. Do I want to get a vanilla CRM product, or do I want to get an industry-ready solution? So what's the difference there? Well, one of the things I described earlier about what I do is Ledgeview, we've created an industry-ready solution for the oil and gas and lubricant marketers out there. So all of those potential customers of ours that fit into that group, they have a big decision to make. Do they buy our finished product, or do they start from scratch and buy CRM and then either pay a consulting firm or pay their IT staff to build it with all the other functionality that they want besides the out-of-the-box functionality? So obviously if there aren't any industry-ready solutions out there for what you need to do, you've got to go vanilla. So hopefully there's at least an option for you so you can make that strategic decision. I will give you kind of what I see as the pluses and minuses to each. If you start with vanilla, the good news on that is by the time it's said and done, you're going to have exactly what you want, right? Because you start with vanilla, you design, customize, build out exactly what you want, and that's what you get. The negative to going the vanilla CRM route is it usually costs more. I would say it almost always costs more. and it takes more time, and you are you are heavily involved in that project, right? You don't just get something and start using it, right? You've got to design it. So you've got to meet with a consulting firm and go through what you want, do a little design project, figure out exactly what you want, and then that has to get developed, tested, and then implemented. An industry-ready solution is done already. I don't want to say it's going to be plug and play, but it's, as an example, we can get our finished product up and running in as little as 6 weeks. I would say average is about 10 to 12 weeks. That same thing, if you were going to start from scratch, could be 6 to 12 months. So big difference there. A couple other things just to think about when you're starting out here is, are there cloud-based options versus on-premise options? Do you want servers in your data center running all this, or do you want to, have your CRM live out in the cloud? That you have to think about. You also have to think about, once you're up and running, who's going to administer CRM? Do you have or do you want to have the expertise in-house to do that? Or again, do you want to have a consulting firm, be like your right arm to help with CRM? Also, obviously, you have to consider time frame, resources, and budget. So, big first step here. All right. Don't do it alone. Again, I mentioned, I'm usually the second, third attempt with a customer trying to get going on CRM, and many of them have bought CRM and just played with it a little bit in the hope that they could, get it up and running successfully without any help. Well, they've learned the hard way that, there's a lot involved with CRM. There are experts out there. So at least tap into a consultant for some part of it, just to get at least a high level of what you might be getting into. I'm not saying you can't do it alone. I'm saying you might have a better chance for success, if you get some help. That being said, I would say if there's a chance as you're researching vendors or consulting firms, if you can find out if there's anybody in that organization who has industry experience, so your industry experience, that helps. Obviously, do some reference checking. Talk to your peers. Talk to others who have used them as a resource. And if anybody tells you that you're not involved much, that hey, we can take this and get it up and running for you, I would run away. You are going to be involved with this, and you're going to want to be involved with this, right? This is a big deal for your organization. You don't want somebody just installing the software and saying, here it is. You want to be a big part of that. All right, just these next couple slides are really just to talk about the project team. So basic project management stuff here. Obviously, pick the right team. I've seen some mistakes here where, hey, who's available? And you shouldn't base this decision on who's available. You should base it on who are the right people for this team. And if it's for your sales team, I know your sales manager is probably busy, but they have to be a main player on this project, right? One of the big things that I'll see is on these teams is you'll have a project manager, so somebody who's going to help get things done, right? You'll also have maybe a consulting firm there who's helping with the project and doing stuff. But what's missing is like your CRM champion. If you don't have that, you are basically wasting your time and money. You need somebody who just is going to own CRM. CRM is a whole lot different than implementing, let's say, a new payroll system or a new accounting system. Those folks, the folks who are going to use that system just know they have to get trained on it. They're going to just do their job differently with a new system. CRM is usually introducing more than just software. It's introducing a culture change, right? We're going to do things different around here, and who's going to lead that charge? If when the project gets done and CRM is up and running and nobody takes ownership of it, it's just going to fail. I see that too often. So make sure you have a champion who is going to run with this forever, because CRM is never done. Always communicating what's going on with the product, with the project, adding enhancements, continuing to grow your CRM. That's why CRM, lives forever. So you have to have a champion. And also one other item that I hear quite often is I like to just call this out to the team is with CRM, many times you're introducing transparency to your culture. I'm doing something in CRM, everybody can see that, Big Brother's watching. That's actually true. That's a big advantage of CRM. That's why you're doing it. You can have, as an example from a sales team perspective, you can have less time doing one-on-ones with your, individual salespeople because the information should be in CRM. So instead of having a sales manager meet once a week or once every 2 weeks with a salesperson, maybe that's a monthly meeting and it's even shorter because if I have questions about what's going on, I can just look in CRM. So there's pluses and minuses to that. Just call them out. All right. Another basic project management thing is just, have a kickoff meeting, right? Get the team involved. Make sure everybody knows who has to do what, assign tasks, set expectations, and I strongly encourage weekly status meetings to make sure everybody's, keeping track of what's going on and they're staying on track. So that's an easy one. That's probably with every project. All right, another phase that I see in CRM that can go awry is the design phase. So if you didn't go with a finished product, you went with vanilla CRM, and so you've got to go design what you want. You can just open the doors to all the possibilities, and that's great. That's great. So at a high level, talk about what you want your CRM to ultimately look like at a high level. And then break it into pieces and come up with a smaller phase 1 project and just do that. So design phase 1, implement phase 1. You're going to learn so much in that project and you're going to get CRM up and running. When you go on to your phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4, it's going to look a whole lot different than if you would have taken and done this whole thing at once. So break it into small pieces. I know that's hard for some organizations that have to get a budget for the overall project. If there's a way to convince your board that, we're going to need, money over the course of multiple years, we need phase 1, here's what we need for phase 1, that's what I would strongly recommend. As a consulting firm, that goes against a lot of what you'll hear from other consulting firms because it's great to get these big projects. We would rather have lots of successful little projects. So win for everybody. All right. Data migration and integration. It's a big deal here. First of all, data migration. What do you want to bring over into CRM just initially? So think about that. And do not underestimate the effort that it's going to take to do this or the value. I see a lot of people skip this step because, boy, that's going to be hard and how are we going to figure it out? We can live without that. Well, man, if you can tie CRM into your, I'll just call it your accounting system as an example, and have data flow, typically it only would flow one way from your accounting system into CRM, and if you did that nightly, you can reap a lot of benefits, right? There's one version of the truth. You have access now to information in CRM that you may have never had. I mean, you don't know how many times I'm presenting this to a sales team for the first time, showing them CRM, and yeah, maybe they're able to log into their accounting system, but it's a little bit clunky for them because they don't do it very often, so then they don't do it at all, or they can only get at a little bit of information. Well, if we can get that data into CRM and give them a nice, easy way to access it, I mean, it just can be priceless. So what we want to do is get them that information so they can make better decisions and also save a lot of time, right? They just have it all in one place. So just an example, here's where I'm going to actually flip over, and I will just show you an example of, this happens to be our oil and gas CRM. So I'm actually going to jump into accounts and pull up just a very simple list of accounts. So one of the things I just wanted to point out here, so for those of you who are new to CRM or have had it, just a list of all the active accounts in CRM. Well, what I can tell you, knowing our system, is that any of these accounts that have an account number that says CRM account only, those are my prospect accounts that I just manually entered into CRM, and I'm trying to get them to be an active customer. But any of these accounts with a customer number filled in, those are the ones that are tied to my back office, and all the information about these customers comes in a nightly data load. So I don't have to do anything to, get that information, to keep it updated. It's done in the back office in my accounting system, so the next day it just shows up here. So as an example, I will just search for an account, and I will just pull one up to show you some of the other things that you can do. So I'm just going to open up this account. One of the things you'll notice is a lot of the fields that are on the screen are going to have a little lock next to them. And that's because one of the way we've set up the system is if it's tied to the accounting system, we don't want you to even to be able to change the data here. Like address, if this customer changes their address, we want it changed in the accounting system, and then the next day it will show up with a new address in CRM. If you change the salesman, the owner of the account in your back office, the next day that will be reflected here. It would be assigned a new owner. So one of the things that we feel is important, besides bringing over things like just account information, is we bring over invoice information. So if you think about like every line item on an invoice, and then what we can do, and what we did do in our system, is we summarize that for the last 12 months. So what this is doing is it's looking at all the different products that this customer bought over the last 12 months, and it added up all of those by product, and it's sorting it by the product they bought the most of down to the product they bought the least of. So at a really quick visual, you kind of can tell, how much a customer buys, and, based on the products they buy, probably what type of customer they are. So you can do this. Again, the data is coming from your back office, but with a tool like CRM, you can create, charts and dashboards like this. Another thing that we've done, some folks are a little bit more visual than others. So what I just showed you was more of, I'll say raw data, right? Just numbers, which can be very helpful. And some people would rather see that in a chart form. So that's another thing that you can do with CRM. So what we did is we took that order history, that invoice data, and we show you visually how a customer is doing on a year-to-date comparison of this year, year-to-date, versus last year, year-to-date. And then we also show like the most recent 12 months versus the prior 12 months. So you can tell this particular customer's gross profit is trending down. In our particular system, we also break down, our products by product segments. So then we break down those charts also, by product segments. In this case, antifreeze, grease, heavy duty, and industrial. And you can also look at these charts if you wanted to by units. So how is their volume doing? So maybe gross profit is going one way, but their actually volume is going another way. So just another way that you can tap into data from your back office using a tool like CRM. Again, get this valuable information into the hands of your sales team, with a very easy tool to use. One last thing I'll show you here is just a dashboard that we created that tends to be very popular with our clients, is a way to summarize all of that data from your accounts and order history information, but roll it up to goals. So we have a way to set goals. So these diamonds would be quarterly goals. And here's how my company is doing year-to-date on gross profit. And I can drill into this, and then I can break that down by department. And if I drill into that, I can break it down by product segment. So again, and I'm comparing actuals to goals all along here. And I could drill into a product segment and see which salespeople, are bringing in that gross profit. So just another way you can use CRM. Again, all this was customized work, but it's in our finished product. But again, it's just to show you some of the possibilities and the value of putting your data into a tool like CRM to make it easy for others to get at. Okay, enough on that. So let's get back to the slides here. I'll get there. Here we go. Okay, so data migration integration, that's a biggie. Hardware and software. So whatever your vendor recommends, take it serious. If they say, you know, your operating system on your laptops or desktops needs this, either this operating system, this version, or you need this much RAM on your machines for it to run. If you cut corners here, your users aren't going to have a pleasant experience, and therefore they're going to think that the software is not good, and it may not be the software. So I've seen customers, oh, we've got new laptops, you know, they're only a couple years old, I think we're good, and then they pay for that. So you want to, my goal is to eliminate every excuse possible. So we want to make sure that, you know, the product is good, the hardware and software is good, the data is good, right? Everything's good, and so it's just a pleasant experience for your users. So take that one seriously. That's a big one. User adoption, probably one of the biggest challenges with CRM. It's not one of them deals where if you build it, they will come. It's like if you build it and you communicate to them what's going on, why you're doing it, why this is going to help the organization, what the strategy is, what their roles are, what managers' roles are. If everybody knows the game plan and sees the vision, it's much easier to get them on board and, you know, have these conversations while you're looking at CRM, while you're implementing CRM, and then by the time you go live, hopefully everybody's excited about CRM. So user adoption is a biggie, and I would say I probably spend just as much time when I'm doing projects talking about this as to talking about the setup, the configuration, the hardware issues. I mean, we talk about user adoption all the time because, you know, it's a big issue. All right, accessing CRM anywhere, anytime. So you have to think about that. What do you want to use CRM for, and where are you going to use it? So, you know, a lot of CRM can work via the web. Some are integrated with Outlook. A lot of vendors will talk about mobile. One of the things you want to be careful about with mobile is if they say they have a mobile app, you have to take as much effort talking about what does the mobile app have versus what does the base product have, because usually apps for mobile are different than the whole product. Usually they're a little bit less than the complete package. Some mobile applications only let you view the data. Well, if that's all you need, that's great. Another thing to think about is, you know, do they need to be able to access information while they're offline, meaning they don't have access to the internet. So one of the things I wanted to show you is our iPad app, which we created. And it gets a little bit tricky because I'm actually going to be using my iPad, but I'm going to, so I'm going to be tapping on my iPad, but I'm going to, try to use my mouse to show you what I'm doing. So we just have an app on this iPad for our oil and gas CRM product. So I just tapped on the app. I'll just tap on that just to wake up the program. So here's our app, and we took feedback from our customers, and one of the things, the main thing they wanted is they wanted a salesperson to be as effective as possible out in the field. So this isn't an app really used to manage a salesperson or manage a sales team or manage a company. It's for a salesperson to be out and also, many times we don't have access to the internet, and we don't want that to hold us up. So our whole concept is you're working offline all the time. So this thing is as fast as your iPad is. You don't have to worry about connectivity or anything. So as an example, one of the things I can do, I'm out in the field, and I'm just about to visit Ledgeview Manufacturing. So I just tap the search box, and I'm going to search. I'm just about pulling into their parking lot, right? So I search. I pull up Fairview Manufacturing. So I tap on that, and it pulls up almost the same information I showed you before. If I look over on the left-hand side, I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. It might take a little time for it to catch up to my iPad here. This is all information about this customer that is really at the account level. So there's accounts receivable information, all kinds of good stuff. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see all these tabs down on the bottom. I can find out what opportunities I have going on for this account right now. And I could, I'm not going to, but I could tap on any one of these and then edit any of these opportunities, update what sales stage it's in, update my estimated close date, add an activity against this, do anything there. I could look at order history. What's the last time What's the last thing they bought from me? What did they buy? How much did they pay? How many did they buy? All this is right here available to me. I can look at any quotes that I have for them. I'll just kind of scroll over. I could look at the contacts that I have in the system for them. Here's one. This product tab shows me that 12-month summary. So this is what they've been buying. So I can do all that, and the beauty is up here. I can add notes, I can add activities, I can add opportunities, I can add contacts. I can do all of this as fast as I possibly can because it's on my iPad, not connected to the internet. And then a couple times a day, we recommend that you do a sync. So you can just go back to this main screen, and we have to have access to a lot of other functions down here. As I scroll over, there's a button to sync. And what that does is takes all the work that I've done on my iPad and pushes it up to my CRM, and takes any changes that were done in CRM and pushes them down to my iPad. So a very powerful tool can make your team very, very efficient. All right, let's jump back to my slides. All right, item number 10, training. This is kind of an obvious one, but training is obviously very important. You want to set your team up. You want to have a good, solid training area to train folks, get them in a room. One of the things that I do when I do the training is I'll talk about a function that we're going to do. Then I'll actually show them, I'll demonstrate it, and then I have everybody flip open their laptops and then actually do it themselves. So hear it, see it, do it, hopefully they learn it. I know over here we have a little quote, hearing it, people forget it, seeing it, maybe they remember it, but if they do it, they understand. So we try to do all three. And then make sure before you do the training that, like I mentioned earlier, everything is good to go, right? You've tested everything, their hardware is data is accurate, it's good to go. We want to roll this out and just have a great acceptance of the tool. And then you're going to hire new people, so make sure that you have, a training plan for them folks. That's always a good thing to have. And then, boy, after that training, celebrate. You've done a lot of work, and you have lots to do. One of the things that we've done, I think I'll just flip over real quick again to our application over here. Just to show you one of the things that we've done is in our workplace, we actually have a section for videos. So I know this gets, some folks might not have a tool to do this, but if you can, we can just record, go to webinar. So if you have a way to make recordings, what we've done in our off-the-shelf, our finished solution product is we made 10, 12, 15-minute little videos that users can access at any time. So here's like video 100 is just CRM navigation. How do I navigate through the tool? Here's one on how do I do a quote? How do I use activities? So on and on and on. So making videos and making them available for folks who need refreshers or for new people can maybe save you a little bit of time. All right, and then last step, obviously don't stop at go live. This is going to live on forever and ever. You have to continue coaching, restate expectations, keep introducing new features. Let's talk about what we want to do in phase 2 now, right? Phase 2 might look a little bit different now that you've got it and you've been using it. So there you go, 11 big steps to give a successful CRM implementation. I will wrap up here by letting you know where I think most people fail. I've covered some of these throughout, but just a big summary. These are my 5 gotchas. Selecting a CRM that doesn't fit your company. Take that time up front. Don't do it alone. Partner with somebody who knows what they're doing, and you'll have a much better chance for success. Item number 2, skipping the data integration. I've seen it where folks just have to enter stuff in their back office, and they have to re-enter it into CRM, and then you have different versions of the truth. Not a good thing. So do data integration. You will appreciate it. Poor user adoption. Have a plan, right? You have to have a plan and get everybody involved. Number 4, starting out just way too big, right? We've got to break this thing into pieces. And probably the biggest thing, if you don't have a champion or an owner, somebody who's just going to take the lead, right? Take charge of this project forever and just run with it, you are wasting your time and money, because if you think you're going to just turn CRM on and people are just magically going to use it, it just doesn't happen that way. I've just seen it too many times. So you have to have that champion. And you know, if you're this far and you're watching these videos, maybe the champion's actually listening to me right now. Because normally the companies that are going to CRM, they have that driver. So it's just important. It's important to have that. So that's it. That's the end of the presentation. Hopefully this was well worth it. And thanks so much for listening.